Let's talk about slut shame and how to get out of it. Because I'm going to assume that some part of you knows, intuitively understands that there has been a psyop perpetuated on us as women for hundreds and thousands of years to separate us from this primal life force of erotic energy, to convince us that it's shameful and that our coochies smell bad, when really it's all because they want it so bad. And if they can convince us of all of this stuff, they can get it for pennies on the dollar. So I'm going to assume that you know that and that you get that and that you're here to figure out what to do about it. Because even if you know and get that, there are still so many benefits for following the good girl script in society. And there are still so many consequences and implications for getting out of line. These edges can be so intimidating and so violently policed that it can seem easier and just like the path of least resistance to just stay within that good girl script enough. And part of what I think was special about me is that I was actively slut shamed over and over and over again, no matter how hard I stayed and tried to stay inside of the good girl scripts, inside of monogamy, inside of whatever. Somehow slut shame always came for me. Which in a way was great, because like if I'm going to be slut shamed anyway, then might as well break out. But I knew that I wanted to break out of this good girl script, but I also didn't just want to swing the other way and start acting out and doing a bunch of stuff that actually crossed over my boundaries. I wanted to be able to be in a real relationship with my desire. I wanted to be able to be in touch with my body and what I wanted, and to be able to gauge a situation and say yes or no. Like intuitive eating. Like I wanted intuitive schmegs, but in order to get there, I had to decondition, because I had to expand the parameters of what I was going to permission and allow for myself. And the first thing I encountered when I even just started expanding my imagination parameters, I felt immediate shame, inner shame. And shame is an internalized witness. It is a self-objectification process through which we are seeing ourselves and determining if we're bad or good or disgusting or worthy or whatever. And step one was I just realized that my inner witness around my sexuality was essentially like the boys that I'd grown up with. It was like an insecure teenage boy, millennial, which means he'd been conditioned just by all those horrible movies that were around when I was growing up, like Austin Powers, and just an endless parade of frat movies with all of these guys who totally wanted like a queen in the streets and a freak in the sheets or whatever, and all of these absurd and unrealistic male-centered fantasies. And that's who is still in my head, who I was still bracing in fear against, like, what is that guy thinking of me and my body count or my decisions? And so I had to de-pedestalize this inner male witness that I had, which was just from trauma and being bullied, that the force of the humiliation, the fire and the pain of those early experiences of being seen with disgust, or the fear of being seen with disgust from my peers, had emblazoned and implanted this man as an interject in order for me to keep myself safe. Because if that interject in my mind that's saying, don't be a slut, don't be a slut, don't be a slut, is appeased, then I'm safe. And I was just carrying that on really late into my life and not taking the time to understand it and identify it and decondition it. And once I did, it was like, ew. And I had a chance to uplift my own inner witness, right? Who do I want my inner witness to be? And again, I'm being so for real with you guys about my little like silly goose laboratory cartoon stuff that works for me. Like if you want to read a book, there's so many good academic books, but I was just like, who do I want my witness to be? And for me, it was this like wild old woman, this like toothless, laughing, horny old woman that just tells me to get it, that tells me to live my life. Like that Annie Dillard poem, beautiful poem, where she's saying you need to get naked and jump in the river, even if you're self-conscious that your belly is hanging out, that life passes so fast and you gotta grab it. And I was like, I need to grab you, and I need to put you in my mind, and I need to have you be the one helping me and seeing me and supporting me to try and experiment and to be the main character and to live my own life. Another silly thing I did was I lied about my body count. I mean, first of all, we're adults. I don't think anyone should even be asking. But sometimes I just volunteered just because I had to break the seal. I had to break the ceiling. I had to break like the preciousness with which I was holding certain self-image of myself. And so sometimes I would go lower. I would go lower just to remind myself that I can always lie. Someone's asking you and you can always not answer, or you could always lie. You can protect yourself. You can do whatever you need to do in this life to protect you. You don't owe anybody anything, especially not if someone's asking you your body count. I don't even care if they're your future husband. That might be a can of worms. But anyway, so I lied because, hey, in a lot of situations you can just lie. And I also lied and said higher. Just like I said, to complicate my self-image, just to say like, it's also okay if I stand here and say a really high number. Just stone face, just to say it, just to expand these boundaries again of what I felt it was possible to say. It's like taking a psychedelic. It's like, oh, that's possible. I also intentionally made friends with people who were more sex positive and people who were S workers, just to be around folks who had done some of this liberating and deconditioning work. In that world where it's like their choice and it was part of their path and all that kind of stuff, like we're all just hanging out. We're all just friends here. Like it's really not that big a deal. And that we all get to steward our own body and center ourselves and go through our path in life. And it's all good. That looks different for every single person. And then being around them and being like, and I don't have that much experience with that many different partners, and feeling like that was also totally okay. The point was just making whatever I wanted okay. Like it was also totally fine if it's authentic and congruent to have less experience and less experiences. I also went back and did a lot of inner child work where I went to those scenarios where those boys and those girls had slut shamed me, or partners that I was with. I just felt so intensely their desire for wanting to own me and the part in me that wanted to be able to give that to them. And I went back and I stood up for myself as an adult, as an empowered, fully grown woman. And I protected myself in a replaying of those scenarios in my mind. I did a lot of meditation, hand on my heart, hand down here, just reclaiming my right to a self-centered, heart-centered, source-centered sexuality. And I really would visualize that there were these generations of women who didn't have access to that at all. So that while deconditioning and while busting out of this is hard, it is one of the tremendous privileges of this incarnation to even have the chance to be able to go on the journey. There are so many women who will never have access to this level of choice. And I would imagine that I was in the center of an arena like the Colosseum, and they were all booty popping and jumping and hollering and cheering for me and saying like, yeah, feel yourself, feel it, you go for it, be free, we love you. I also got very vigilant every time I heard slut shaming or this desire to imprison and own female sexuality in the world. I started with a mantra. I started first with the mantra weird because my body didn't reject it. Like I'd be like, wow, the church really makes you feel like sexuality is so bad and then tries to control it. That's weird. Or like, wow, men really fetishize virgins and people who have no experience. Weird. Then I graduated to ew. So I would force myself every time I heard it, I would actively think ew. And now I'm on to pathetic. So whenever I hear anyone doing that, I think pathetic. And the last little tip for now is I actually went on a lot of cuck forums and really let myself internalize that guys love being cucks. They love it. They love it when you're free from this horse shit.